Hey everybody, I'd like to report on what is being called some classified documents pertaining to Jade Helm. Now, I cannot verify the authenticity of the documents, but I will read to you what they state here, and you guys can just keep your eye open. And until any kind of further developments are made, I will just assume for the moment that these are authentic and that it should be reported. And I want to thank one of the individuals who wishes to remain anonymous on the situation. So, what we'll do is read for you what they do say. If Zone 1 and 2 go hot, system can request to issue under martial law orders to be reviewed by command, at which time will be addressed by the operation command. Under the system, information that may be protected with these labels range from personally identifying information such as passport and social security numbers. Interestingly, this is not in the document here. I'm just interestingly. Do you remember how all of those pre Jade Helm 15 exercises were had to deal with the airports? Remember the Texas airport, and they were talking about something that had to do about passports at that time. So now we have a document here that's talking about passports. Remember? Okay. So, Social Security numbers to documents protected by the attorney client privilege. With martial law, this will be green and only under command. Those persons determined to be enemy combatants are subsequently sent to a centralized holding facility where a military screening team reviews all available information regarding each detainee to again review whether the individual is an enemy combatant. With the assistance of other U.S. government officials, which is interesting because we were told that the FBI and local officials will be participating with Jade Helm 15 special operations forces during this exercise, including military lawyers, intelligence officers, and federal law enforcement officials. And considering all relevant information, including the facts from capture and detention, the threat the individual poses, his intelligence value, and any law enforcement interest. The military screening team assesses whether the detainee is an enemy combatant and should continue to be detained, and whether transfer to Arizona Sedona is warranted. Document number 2. After the screening team makes this assessment, a general officer designated by the combatant commander reviews the Central Holding Area Screening Team's recommendation. When determining whether a detainee should be transferred to Reese Air Force Base, the combatant commander considers the threat posed by the detainee, his seniority within hostile forces, possible intelligence that may be gained from the detainee, possible law of war violations committed by the detainee, and any other relevant factors. Department of Defense officials in Washington review those proposed for transfer to Reese Air Force Base prior to their transfer. An internal Department of Defense review panel, including legal advisors, reviews the recommendations of the combatant commander and advises Secretary of Defense on proposed detainee transfers to Reese Air Force Base. All available information is considered in those reviews, including information submitted by the government or obtained from the detainees themselves. In the event that enemy combatants are transferred to Reese Air Force Base, immediately upon their arrival at Reese Air Force Base, they are interviewed and further assessments are made based on relevant information, including detainee interviews, U.S. intelligence and law enforcement sources. Each enemy combatant detained at Reese Air Force Base also undergoes an extensive assessment of the threat he poses. This threat assessment process is used to determine whether, notwithstanding his status as an enemy combatant, should remain detained in the control of the DoD. Do you remember all of those FEMA camps that we've been talking about where they were advertising for military to be security or to be military personnel manning those FEMA camps that were going to be run by the Department of Defense? Remember that? Threat assessments of each detainee are made by an integrated team of interrogators, analysts, behavioral scientists, and regional experts. Those threat assessments are provided by the commander, U.S. Southern Command, for review and recommendation. The Southern Command then forwards its recommendations to an interagency committee in Washington. That includes law enforcement, intelligence, and defense representatives. That interagency committee makes an assessment and recommendation. The Secretary of Defense or his designee, then decides whether transfer of the detainee to the custody of another government, release of that individual, or his continued detention in DoD control is appropriate. I will leave you guys links for this so you can read and check it out. And I find this very, very interesting. As I stated, I cannot confirm nor deny whether these are absolutely authentic. They would appear to be authentic, especially considering everything that we know surrounding all of the advertisements for military to participate as security for these Department of Defense FEMA camp holding facilities. And considering all that and the way that this is worded, and maybe perhaps we need to check into this Arizona Sedona locale that they were talking about and see what we can find out about that. Thanks, everybody.